Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Finally, do I call you doctor now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, can we start this over again? This is a congratulations
Oh, thank
from me
you.
and Savannah. You don't have to open it up now, but before I forget.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So yeah, now you graduated. How does it feel?
I'm still not done because I have to take my boards exam, but it's nice to not have to. Well, I still have to study, but it's nice not to be in school, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the good part about it, right?
Yeah. Done with school forever.
Well, let's pause that. You maybe go for the PhD. You never know.
No.
Fair enough. Well, again, thank you for coming on the podcast. For those,
Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. So anybody that doesn't know who you are, your name's Justine, my good friend from high school.
Yes.
For senior year, junior.
My
year.
senior year.
Yeah, my junior year. But we've been together in this process of trying to figure out the right path for us for a while.
Yes.
And a lot of struggles.
Yes.
But you made it basically finally to becoming a doctor of physical therapy.
Yep. Finally.
So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
There's not enough congratulations that goes into this because of how much sweat and tears, mainly tears, that went into this,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. The viewers want to hear, who is this lady?
So I'm Justine. I'm a recent graduate. I have my doctorate of physical therapy. I knew I wanted to physical therapy since I was like in middle school. Not really sure why. I looked at other professions, but obviously in middle school, PT seems like the one that had most patient interaction that I really liked. In high school, I started shadowing different professions like pediatrics, OT, PT, DO, like everything. And I liked PTs the most. I liked the patient care. I liked all the different things you could go into. So yeah, now I'm job searching, studying for boards, planning a wedding.
Yeah, planning for a wedding too, because you're engaged. You recently got engaged.
Yes.
So it's so many congratulations for you.
A lot of stuff going on.
All at once.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks like, oh, congratulations, but it becomes overwhelming too.
Yeah.
Because now you got to deal with the wedding on top of getting your boards done. So with the boards, first of all, tell us a little bit about that. So what do you have to do for these boards, basically?
Yeah. So basically, after you graduate, you have to graduate from an accredited PT school. So basically, you have to graduate from an accredited PT program. You have to graduate with your doctorate, and then you're allowed to sit for the boards. So the boards, it's called the MPTE. It's 250 questions about basically everything that you learned. You need to make a 600 out of 800 in order to pass with your PT license. And then after that, it's pretty simple to transfer from state to state. So yeah, it's pretty big test, but it's the last test that we have to take.
Okay, so how long are you accredited for after you take that boards? Because I know like physicians have to take it every 10 years, and what is the case for PTs?
So PTs, it's basically like any other profession where you have to do continuing education. So every 2 years, I believe, I haven't really looked into it too much since I just graduated, but every 2 years you have to do a certain number of CEUs, which a lot of companies pay for nowadays, in order to keep your license active.
Oh, that's a good thing. So it's a benefit for you too you have to take it either way, but
right. And then the CEUs you can take in basically whatever you're interested in or whatever your specialty is, which is really nice.
So when it comes to specialty, is there more of a step that you have to go by that? Or like, do you have to specialize in that? Or do you just kind of find a job and kind of work your way towards understanding the material?
So when you graduate with your DPT, you're an entry-level physical therapist. You can go to pretty much any setting that you want to go into. But if you wanted to go to residency to be more specialized, so if you wanted to do residency in ortho or neuro, peds, things like that, then you can do a residency for that. But CEUs, it's just whatever helps you in whatever setting you're in. So if I'm in a SNF, for example, and I wanted to do a CEU on dementia, Parkinson's, things like that, then it's something else that I can do to continue my education so I can be more knowledgeable for my current patients.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. I haven't heard it that way before, but I like that model much better, especially better than residency. So
yeah. You have
Nice.
the option to do residency if you want
Sure.
to. Yeah.
Are there many like residency programs out there, or is it like a new thing that they're starting up now?
They have a lot, yeah.
Okay.
I've only really looked at sports residencies. So I think near me in LA, they have maybe 4.
Okay.
In Georgia, I think they only have 2.
Right. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
they're very competitive to get into, but definitely an option for everyone.
Gotcha. And speaking of like locations wise, so since you're in California
Mhm.
now, is there going to be a like any anything different that you'll have to do so you can come from California and practice in Georgia?
From California to Georgia, I think the process is pretty simple.
Hmm.
There are certain states that make you jump several hoops. So you have
Gotcha.
to take the law exam, and some places I think require you to take a separate NPTE. I
Yep.
I
Okay.
don't know,
Right.
but for California, I'm getting licensed in California, passing the MPTE,
Hmm.
and then taking the law exam for California. And then I think to transfer to Georgia, I just have to pay a fee.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because everybody takes the same NPTE.
So yes, everybody takes the same one,
Yeah.
but I think that's one thing that I have didn't get to notice as well was the process. It seems like every state is different on their own. Like Georgia is pretty lenient on a
Mhm.
lot of things, but then again, it's a very southern
Yeah.
place, compared to California.
Mhm.
So tell me about a little bit about your undergrad, where you came from in the sense,
Yeah.
and what your experience was like of getting to understand how you could, figure out the prereqs for that.
Yeah. So I went to the University of Georgia
Nice shirt, nice shirt.
with my undergrad in exercise and sports science. To get into a lot of grad school programs, you don't have to go a specific major in order to get into the program as long as you take all the classes. So some of my classmates had art degrees or random degrees like sociology or English or things like that. So at UGA, I was fortunate enough to have a counselor to really walk through that process with me. And I was very interested in exercise and sports science because I always knew I would do PT. So they kind of told me what classes to take. If you're a little bit confused, there are websites that you can look on, or the main PT class is what you use to apply to PT school. They have the classes that you need to take because some schools require additional classes. So a lot of schools in Georgia don't require biology too, but a lot of schools out of state require biology too.
Gotcha.
So things like that.
And so when you did that, you actually were the one who introduced me into bio or a certain accelerated course.
Yes.
Not to name drop them, but tell me how easy that was for you in the sense of not having to go through a whole semester and then taking this class, accelerated wise.
Yeah. So it helped me specifically because my DPT program was an accelerated hybrid program. So
Hmm.
it kind of set me up as a great transition into that grad school program. But for classes like biology 2 or other science classes that you've kind of taken in the past, I know for certain programs, the classes expire after several years. So, for instance, for me, I took Bio 1 and Anatomy Physiology 1 my freshman year because I knew I would get into PT school one day. But then I took 2 gap years, which ended up expiring those classes. So
Hmm.
since I had already taken them, I was already knowledgeable in them. So I did this accelerated, I guess, science class,
Right. Yeah.
and it was just review of everything, but it was nice not to have to sit in a full classroom in person and learn the same things at a slower pace. And it was basically self-learning because you just watch the videos or go through the readings and then take the exams. So it just worked better for me that way. But I think if you haven't had experience to those classes before, it might be a little challenging.
It is, especially for an undergrad, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm not sure if it's like recommended, but if you need to get a class out, it's SCU
SCUHS.
HS. Yeah. So anybody that's like looking to get some prerequisites out of the way, please do it. Because when you gave me that information for anatomy 1 and 2,
Mhm.
for applying, and I was like, man, I really need this. Like, I got to get it in now. I got anatomy 1 and 2 with the labs done in one semester. It
Yeah.
was a crazy semester. I
Yeah, it's a
remember
lot of work.
it's a lot of work, but it was so much better because it was like, okay, this is what grad's gonna be like.
Yeah,
Just a fraction because I only took
exactly.
2 classes.
And you were already exposed to it.
Yeah,
So it was just the pacing that you have to get used to.
right.
But again, it was a great transition into starting grad school because undergrad for a lot of people can be very slow.
Hmm.
And then once you get to grad school, it's a whole nother beast. So I know that was a great transition for me because it taught me like, time management and just stress management overall. So, yeah, I thought it was a great program.
Yeah, of course you loved it.
Yeah.
But so tell me about it. Like, what it truly is the difference before when you were studying in undergrad versus you're studying now? You were studying in grad school. How much of a difference was that?
I think it really taught me what type of studier I am, or what
Mhm.
kind of learner I am, I guess, to say it better.
Right.
Um, in undergrad, I thought that I was just a kinesthetic learner, and in a way I am, but I realized going through grad school that I'm a visual and auditory learner.
Hmm.
So, for instance, if I'm sitting in class and I'm going through the PowerPoints and I'm taking notes, then it kind of processes in my brain, but it doesn't process until I'm going through it myself and then recording myself summarizing everything and then hearing myself say it again while looking at the slides. Like,
Yep.
and I know that's a lot of extra steps, but that just processed it way better for me than just sitting in a lecture and then just writing everything down, or like, with a lot of core classes, you can't really learn that kinesthetically.
Yep. Right.
So, undergrad, I struggled because I was just guessing how I studied. And then I really learned it in grad school,
Right.
luckily.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it usually goes, though.
Right.
Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I got my fundamentals down." I'm like, "No, not really." You know.
Yeah.
And so, what about the volume? Because the volume was completely different for now that you were in a graduate program.
You mean like the
Content.
workload?
Yeah.
It was a lot, I won't lie, it's a lot, but I think it's different because you start loving what you're learning,
Hmm.
and for me, there were certain classes in undergrad that I was not passionate about, that just didn't really I just did it because I had to, but then once you get into graduate school and you love PT and you love everything about PT, then everything you learn is like, "Oh, wow, this is awesome," and then it connects to the other class that I learned, and then everything just kind of fits together, or you can kind of connect the dots, and that's just really exciting.
Right.
So I think the workload, it's manageable because you love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, what about the time? You say like you love it, you did it, but it's not perfect, right? So, like,
Right.
what were some of the times where you were like, I'm not sure why I'm here?
Yeah. I have definitely called you a couple times because I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this,
Right.
because it's a lot of work and it does hurt a little bit when you study so hard and you put all these hours in and you're like blood, sweat, tears, and then
Right.
you see your exam and it's like fail.
Right.
That hurts. But I don't know, like, you just have to have a really good support system, and I think that's
Correct.
really honestly what brought me through PT school. If
Yeah.
I didn't have the support system that I had, I would not be here.
I think that's such a huge part that people don't take into consideration, right?
Mhm.
Whether you go to a school or PT school, whatever the case is great, but you have to make sure that you have some type of form of therapy.
Right.
Therapy means family, friends. That's what it doesn't mean you got to go to counseling, you know?
Right.
But some people miss that part of like, yeah, I got into grad school. Okay, good. But then what about the rest of the factors that make you who you are?
Right.
Right? It's so big, and I'm glad that like we could use each other as a support system too,
Mhm.
because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna like get through this X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
if I don't talk to somebody about it.
100%. And I think, talk therapy helps as well with a professional, but having your friends and family as support is definitely like it's huge. My
Yeah.
parents have supported me through the very beginning. My immediate family, my sister, my brother, my aunt, like all of them have supported me. David obviously carried me through a lot of it, and then you as well. And
Yeah.
I joke about this all the time, but I remember calling you when I was like really down in the dumps, and I was like, Adam, I think I'm gonna quit PT school. I think do you remember this?
Yep,
I was
I
like,
do.
I'm gonna quit PT school and I'm gonna open a Korean barbecue like
Yeah.
spot in Tennessee because there's none in Tennessee, and I'm gonna get my MBA. Do you
Yep,
remember that?
I
And
do
you were
remember
like,
that.
Justine, no. And then you bullied me into continuing
Yeah.
PT school. So yeah, here
Well,
I am.
well, here you are. Yeah. I mean, well, it was. I remember. You're right. I was in the parking lot, and I was like going somewhere, And I was like, what in the world is this
Yeah.
girl saying? Like MBA, Korean barbecue, like
Yeah.
what's going on?
I
But
was very serious. I did all the
yeah,
research, and you were like, if you're not a PT, then you're not anything. Like, you're meant to be a PT. Like, shut up.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, okay,
It was
you're
hard
right.
love.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was for those people who like are like you bullied her, like they're like they don't understand it, you know?
Canceled.
Yeah, right there you go. But I think like that's sometimes you need that like a tough love.
Yeah.
And coming into that, like we both that's why we relate to each other because we come from the Asian culture.
Right.
And that's a big part. Tough love is a common theme, you know?
Yeah.
So how was it with your parents, first of all? Because a lot of times Asian parents, they'll say, go become a doctor, go become an engineer. But instead you said, go become a PT. And like, they may not know what that is. Or, you know, in Vietnam, where your family's from, that's not really a common thing, you know? So
Yeah.
how did they take that, first of all, when you were giving them the news?
So PTs are doctors of physical therapy.
Hmm.
So that was not really a selling point for them. But I just kind of explained what PTs are. They didn't really know what they are to begin with. You know, they have very broad views of like, oh, doctor, engineer, lawyer, you
Right.
know. So I just basically explained to them what PTs are, what they can do, what kind of jobs they can go into. And then they were supportive because it was something that I was passionate about. And, you know, money after the fact, you know, healthcare workers, I don't think get paid as much as they should.
Absolutely.
But it was like, they're at the end of the day, they're worried about job security.
Hmm.
And so they want to make sure that whatever I do, I'm going to be able to provide for myself and my future family. So once I kind of talked to them about that, they were pretty supportive.
Which is good, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often,
No.
right? And especially in our cultures.
Right.
So it's when I meet your parents, I know that it comes from a good heart, but they're very open people, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of like maybe listeners that are listening to this are may not have that, you know.
Right.
So I try to tell them, you know, there are sometimes like my parents are very hard on me. It's tough love for a reason. It
Mhm.
does make you stronger. Yes, it's a little bit different in this generation, but sometimes you do need it. You know,
Right.
like there's only so much we can be sensitized to,
Right.
and we have to be able to take it with a grain of salt. You
Yes.
know, with whatever our siblings say, our families say.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
And I think for both of our parents, specifically, I can't speak for everybody else,
Sure.
but for our parents specifically, I think they came from a place where they really had to work hard. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this.
Hmm.
Their parents had to work hard. They came from, you know, third world countries or, you know, war torn countries, and
Exactly.
they worked hard to get to where they are now. So they gave up everything so that we could have a chance at life or more opportunities than they did. So I think that them pushing and them giving that tough love is, you know, they don't want us to be where they were at their lowest. It's just hard to see it that way when you don't understand the other side where they were.
Right.
So it's like, why are you pushing me so hard? Like, I'm trying my best. Like, you know, grad school's hard, or getting into anything that you want to do, it's going to be hard.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But once you understand that, it's like, you know, then everything you do, you kind of want to pay back to your parents, which is also something that we've kind of talked about over
Right.
years.
And it's so hard, right, to
Yeah.
like see from their point of
Mhm.
perspective. You know, my dad was saying he was like, yeah, I came to New York and then kind of went through the process there, but leaving like my mom and whatnot, and then you know because there's a whole visa process and green card
Right.
process way back in the days, and that's like we never had to do that,
Mhm.
right? Like we're here, we were born here, we're
Right.
fine. We never have to worry about citizenship and all that kind of stuff. So it's like it's
Right.
hard to put into perspective
Mhm.
until we get to see that, you know. But did you ever feel like I don't know about you, but like for me, I always felt like there was a time when I was in high school and middle school where it was just like we had to like survive, you know, rather than thrive.
Yeah.
People can thrive easily these days, but back then it was just like man, just work, work, work. Like that was
Mhm.
the mentality. Did you ever feel like that as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think high school was the moment when I realized like my parents gave up everything to come to this country. I can't be a failure. And that's a lot to put on somebody that young. Not
Right.
that they put it on me, but I kind of just put it on myself. So it was like I guess, like you said, that survival mode of you got to work, work, work. Because if you fail, then everything that they worked for, everything that they, gave up, it, it's not worth it. Like for me, I kind of disappointed them. So,
It's daunting.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but it also could be a motivator. It's really how you
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. It
Um,
can make or break you, I guess.
literally, yeah. And I think also like we talk about that as like as medical professionals too, it's very difficult because we don't know how to give ourselves a rest.
Yeah.
Like we're always like, okay, I can do something with this patient. Continue to keep going. Maybe we can give him a referral somewhere, him or her.
Mhm.
And so it's just like that repeating process. So we like forget to just take a deep breath and just
Right.
understand that like if we have done everything we can, that's all we can ask for.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, like especially foreign people, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And being like a first gen or non-traditional student, in that sense, it's even a minority. There's just so many factors to it.
Yeah.
So like when your parents came here and you have an older sister,
Mhm.
how did that go with them trying to like parent teach wise? Like were they trying to figure out how to parent different to you because they're the older child and you're the middle child?
I think we just have very different personalities. My sister was a very good kid. Not
Okay.
that I wasn't,
Okay.
but I'm definitely more on the mischievous side.
Yep.
Um, so I think they didn't do much parenting with my sister, if
Fair
I'm
enough.
being honest.
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to,
Fair enough.
exactly.
I mean I was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
The middle children are always
Middle, yeah,
they're
exactly.
always like the hellraisers. Like they
Yeah.
really are.
Mhm.
My brother, same way. Like I think they were trying to find out their own ways, and then we just like kind of slipped through them.
Yeah.
And then the younger ones,
They went too easy on the first child because they
oh
were angel babies, and
yeah,
then we were born.
yep, yep. Well, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
And then the youngest one comes in.
Yep. The
Then
baby.
privilege is set. That's where privilege is. Your brother, he's a good kid anyway, so I
Yeah.
can't say anything bad about him. And my sister, she's a great kid as well. But man, do they have privilege?
Yeah, they're lucky. They're the babies.
They deserve it. To be
Yeah.
fair, yeah. I mean, they got good careers and whatnot out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's so funny watching the difference of like parenting, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was like telling my dad before, I was like, man, you used to like slap as a like traditional dad, every now and then, and like he like just like never did it anymore with my sister. It was the funniest thing ever. I mean, she was female too, but um, he was just like, hey, I'm tired.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, and then at that point, she has you guys to take care of her.
Exactly. There's no
Yeah.
point of there's really no point of him having stressing around.
Yeah.
So I like it that way. So now tell me, a little bit off topic. So now that you're engaged, how is that engaged life? Is it any different from what you were doing before?
Not really. Because David and I, we've been dating for 4 years prior to us getting engaged. So we had already talked about it. But since, school was very big and my dream of being a PT was, has been happening longer than me and David have been together,
Yep.
that's kind of taken the front seat of our relationship. And he's done a phenomenal job of supporting me throughout this whole journey. So now we're going to start planning everything, I guess. But
Right.
it's still kind of on the back burner because we're just enjoying engaged life. We're going to travel more next year once I start making money. We're
Right.
trying to figure out like job situations, and maybe I'm thinking about doing travel therapy, and then he's going to work remote so that he can just kind of go with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just kind of all up in the air.
It's a good balance because
Mhm.
you get so many options,
Right.
right? Especially now.
Yes.
But with like a spouse, we talked about support being a big part of it. How hard was it to put your life on hold, kind of, while you were in PT school? Because that's what it was.
Yeah.
A lot of medical professional people who go into it that don't realize that it really does take a toll on the relationship.
Yeah. For our relationship, it didn't really do too much.
Mhm.
David's just been, again, like phenomenal. He's been, taking care of me when I can't. So he'll cook, clean my apartment, take care of the dog. Like he's been there for me every step of the way. I think mostly it's been friendships.
Mhm.
I obviously am busy, so I've been taking the back burner on some friendships,
Right.
which I'm reaching back out now, and everybody's been so nice. They all understand, and everybody's been super supportive. But it was just that small time frame where I'm like, hey, can't talk to you for a couple months because I'm busy. But everybody's just been great. Like, I've been very fortunate in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I can agree with
Yeah.
your statement too. Like it's the people that you surround yourself with
Hmm.
is important because I've heard this before and I think about it now, but the people who don't understand or aren't willing to understand where you're coming from, they're usually not there for the long run, you know?
Hmm.
And so it's great because if you come to a friend and you're like, "Hey, I'm ready to catch up again." And they said, "Yeah, let's pick off where we left off."
Hmm.
Perfect. Then you know that that's a long-term friend,
Right.
which is so important.
Hmm.
So it's funny when I hear you and like when you had the dinner the other day and whatnot. It's like it was good to see, like who was the old friends
Right.
that I was acquainted with as well. So it
Exactly.
was really nice to kind of see the support community that you have with the two.
Yeah, and it's very nice. It's very telling when you have people, if you tell them, like, hey, I only have 45 minutes to an hour tonight. Like, I really have to study. And then they're like, okay, like, I'll come to you. We'll hang out for 45 minutes and then that's it. Or, like, let me just drop off coffee or boba or food. It's the little things that really, yeah, like, I'm going to pay it back to them eventually. Once I get a paycheck, I'll pay it back.
Maybe the second paycheck, not the
Yeah.
first one. It's important for people to understand that, and
Right.
and if you're a friend too, like your friends, they understand that there's nothing to be has to be paid back. But
Hmm.
it's just a nice gesture that you would do.
Right.
So it's nice to finally get somebody to also be a part of that.
Yeah.
But going back to that, sorry, I just forgot, is the travel therapy. We were
Mhm.
talking about that for a while. So tell me a little bit about that because it's from what I understand, it's kind of like travel nursing, but really not.
It is
Okay.
kind of like it, yeah. So you have contracts. I think they can go from 13 weeks to as long as I think 6 months. Like, I guess it kind of depends on the company that you go with. There's tons of companies, and they have different benefits for each company. Um, Typically, travel therapy pays more than your traditional normal job. I guess there are outliers everywhere, but it's just a great opportunity if you don't really have ties to a place to kind of travel the country. So we were thinking about going up the coast or doing it when we come back to Georgia because eventually we're going to move back to Georgia. So we kind of just want to take assignments on the way so we don't have to do like one full trip back to
Nice.
Georgia.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's a smart way of going.
Yeah,
S-
it'll take us a while though, so it'll be like 3 months here, 3 months
Yeah,
here, 3 months here.
that makes sense. So with the travel therapy, for nurses, there's a big gap, right? Like from nurse to travel nurse, there's a big
Mm.
gap in salary. Is that similar to, PTs? How if you're staying in one location versus a travel therapy?
I think it depends on the location you're at. So in big cities like LA, they pay way more than
Mm,
Georgia. So if I work in LA, I'm gonna take a significant pay cut coming to Georgia if I worked a traditional PT
sure.
job. For s- travel, it's just dependent on the specific location and how much they charge the travel company.
Hmm.
So it just kind of depends. With COVID pay, recently I spoke with a recruiter and they said it was like 2400 a week on average. So it just depends because I
Yep.
know some nurses were even getting 10,000 a week
Yep. Yeah.
during COVID,
During
but
COVID. Yep.
obviously different things, but yeah, I guess it depends on the time and the place.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it too, because now, not that COVID's disappeared, but
Mhm.
now that it's like slowing down the cases at least, there's a pay cut. Like I just heard
Mhm.
from a nurse, they were saying, yeah, those incentives
Yeah.
to be there aren't really that much anymore. So it's a different time now
Mhm.
compared to 2020 when we were
Right.
before, which is different. But also, when you're in LA, you're also paying the expense of living there too.
Right.
So it kind of balances it out, kind of
Mhm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that. But yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I was gonna ask you about was now that you're like a UGA alumni, you're a PT, alumni from your school. Now, are you a full UGA fan, like football fan, or are you don't care for much about it,
Well, if you go to UGA, you have to care for the football team, right?
especially now?
Especially always.
Well,
always.
I don't know if you know about the game that's coming up for New
Yeah.
Year's
Yes.
because I'm an OSU fan.
Since
Yes.
when?
Yeah, well, since I married my wife, who's
Oh,
an
because her family is.
I get adopted into it, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
not
That makes sense.
not by I mean, it was with consent, I guess I can say. It's a big game.
Yeah.
That one's gonna be huge for New Year's.
Tickets are expensive.
Where is it though? I don't know where it is.
I'm not sure, but we were thinking about, is it here?
I don't know if it's
Can
here.
you look it up if it's here?
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good
it's
point.
here because we were gonna get tickets for it, but it was $1,000 for like nosebleed seats.
For nosebleed seats?
Yeah.
Nah, that's not right.
I didn't think I was even going to be here for New Year's, so I didn't even think about coming.
Yeah.
And then a couple of friends of mine, one of my good friends from PT school, she is going for OSU. So she was like, we should go to the game. And then she told me how much it was.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. It's at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah.
Dang, that's insane. It's gonna be a good game. I still haven't gone to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium though.
I don't think I have either.
It's got to be a good one. They say like they got
Yeah.
like the Mercedes F1 car up there, like literally
Oh.
stamped to the wall.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I
So,
moved when they built it, I think.
yeah, I've been trying to find the soccer team. What is it? Atlanta United.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Atlanta United.
So I've been trying to go to one of the games, but I just haven't been able to. Surprisingly, I've been to more Braves games than
Oh, well, because you live over there.
I used to. Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit different now, but yeah. So okay. So tell a little bit about some of your advices for somebody out there who's maybe looking to the PT field or maybe looking to the medical field in general and they just don't know where to start.
Yeah, so I think you should do a lot of observations, get, you know, advice from current practicing PTs, OTs, MDs, DOs, nurses, whoever you want, different opinions. Stronger opinions will shine through. People who absolutely hate it and people who absolutely love it. So just get a lot of opinions. Look at, Reddit threads helped me as well to kind of figure out what school I wanted to go to. Really working with patients if you're able to. Usually as if you volunteer or observe, you're not allowed to touch patients, but you can still talk to them. And if you enjoy patient care, then I would go into a field that's very big on patient care. If you're not, you can be in the medical field but not work directly with patients, and that's okay too. It's just you don't want to commit or invest your money in a career that you're not 100% into, because at the end of the day, grad school and continuing your education is very expensive.
Yeah, it can definitely
Yeah.
be. Now, going into that, how would you get experience, right? Let's say I want to go in, but I'm not sure where to start, especially in this PT route. What's the best way to go?
Yeah, so for PTs, what I did, I just sent an email blast to everybody within 30 miles of where my house was. And I said, hi, I'm Justine. I'm a student at the University of Georgia studying exercise and sports science. I'm looking to go into PT school, but I just wanted to observe. A lot of healthcare professionals are very open to students coming and observing because obviously, like, if you're very passionate about your career, then you want everybody to love it as well.
Right.
And that's what I really noticed with the PTs that I worked with specifically. They all love their careers. So it made me like really want to go into it even more. But yeah, just send an email blast. If you have connections, it helps as well to just, you can always reach out to me and ask me, and I'll see what I can do.
So, like, did you just Google, like, pretty much like physical therapy
Yeah.
locations and then just try to look for their email from there?
Yeah. Basically, I think I did physical therapy near me. And I looked
Really?
at every single link.
There you go.
And then if I wanted to do like specialties, so if I wanted to look at pediatric PTs, then I would do pediatric PTs near me.
Yep.
But yeah.
You were doing a benchmark, right?
I was in benchmark for a little bit for observation.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what is the term? It's like a patient
outpatient physical therapy?
Yeah, outpatient physical therapy. And then there are like certain techs for that. Well, wasn't that what you were doing at one point?
PT aid.
PT aid. There you go.
Yeah.
So what is that? Because you explained to me a little bit, but I keep forgetting.
Yeah, so PT aids, it's a great way to get your hours for PT school. You can work with patients directly. You just basically take them through the exercises. Some states have certain laws to where you can't put patients on electrical stimulation and ice and heat.
Hmm.
The PT has to do that, but I think other states are pretty lenient about it. But you basically just take patients through their exercises, clean tables, observe the PTs or the PTAs. So yeah.
That's such a good way to go. Like that's pretty
Mhm.
direct, but and the way you did it, I've noticed that it wasn't too hard to get that. At least from you made it look very easy. So is that the case? Like that you've noticed at least in your experience that they're looking for jobs out there for people to like come in and more aides to help them out.
I think it's again dependent on location.
Hmm.
In Georgia, it was very hard for me to find a PT aid job.
Okay.
So I actually worked as an office coordinator at a PT clinic, which was very nice as well because it taught me a lot about like, documentation, billing, scheduling, and seeing everything up front so that when I was in my rotations and I was working on scheduling with the front office girls, with insurance as well, I was a little bit more knowledgeable. Insurance, I'm still working on, but as far as scheduling and everything, I was more aware of how that goes. So now when I become a full PT, I'm kind of more aware of how the um,
Right.
office coordinators are, PT aides, and things like that. In California, I did the same thing. I just sent an email blast to everybody within 30 miles and said,
Dang.
"Hey, I'm looking for a job as a PT aide," and I got 2 offers. But that was in the 200 emails that I sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of emails that you
Yeah.
got out.
It was just copy paste.
Okay, well there you go. That was the easy part about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way to do that, but a lot of people don't realize like cold calling does work. Like
Yeah.
again, it won't work for 200 of them, but
Mhm.
it'll work for one or two, and that's all you need,
Right.
right? That's a big part of it. So I like that because that's kind of similar to what we do, but medical assistants like it's different because of scheduling for undergrad. Like your class schedule might not come
Mhm.
to it. And PTs like do they go on Saturdays and Sundays as well, or is it just Saturdays every now and then? Like for most
Again,
part.
depends on
Yeah,
what you go into. So a lot of outpatient PTs, they don't work weekends,
gotcha.
but SNFs, acute care, neuro, peds, it just depends.
Gotcha. Yeah, are you planning to work on the weekends, or are you just not touching that for now?
I don't really want to, but if my job requires it, then I'll think about it.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
you'll be ready to be hired, huh?
Yeah. I just gotta see. I've been in school so long. I just want to
Yeah.
relax for a little bit. But I'm sure after I like have my fun, then I wouldn't mind working weekends. It's just I like to have good work-life balance.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of I'm sure you've heard of that before, but like residencies, they do like the golden week where you have like 1 week out of
Yeah.
however so many weeks, one weekend just to like chill. So
Mhm.
it's like it's funny but sad, because you're like, wow, this is like what a normal person would do,
Right.
but for them it's like, no, this is like legit like the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to see, but got to find some humor out of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're not like that either.
I definitely want a good work-life balance.
Oh,
Like
you
I
got to.
love my patients, I love PT, but I love my life too.
Well,
So,
that's what makes you human,
yeah.
like people are like, no, work. It's like, no, sometimes you got to take a break.
Yeah, right.
That's how you continue to become a better PT, is just take some rest,
Mhm.
then go back to your patients. So
I
that's just
agree.
that's how everybody is. Now I wrote this down because I have a bone to pick with you.
Okay.
You told me a long time ago. I called you and I said my knees are hurting every time. Like I go down to pray, um, my knees hurt,
Mhm.
right? And anytime I squat, like just simple squats, my knees are even like it's killing. And you said everything around, like all your muscles are like just weak, pretty much. You were being very nice, but why weren't you just blunt and saying like you're weak? So why didn't you just tell me bluntly that like I should get up out of my and like
So, I think for you, I definitely could have.
yes.
Once you build that patient rapport, you can kind of tell with
Yeah.
patients that you can be a little bit more tougher to.
Yeah.
I think when you had asked me, I was still probably halfway through PT school. So
Correct.
I was still very in that mindset of like, this is the script that I need to follow. This
Ah, I
is like
see.
how I need to treat
Okay.
patients. So I was very much like, I don't see anything
There you go.
too red flag ish, like being very like proper nice,
Yep.
which you should be with everybody anyway. But
True.
with you specifically, I could have been a little bit more tough love.
You should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it took me like, it literally took me to like 2 months ago. And we had this conversation like 7 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, and I was like, man, she should have just told me that I was like overweight and like, and I could have just like done a little bit more exercise. But it was interesting to see the way you like interact with patients, right? Because it was such a professional way that it was weird talking to like my good friend and like, she was formal with me, but it
Yeah.
was like something that I could see now why you're doing that.
Yeah. I think in the beginning, it was very much like PT Justine and then normal Justine.
Right.
And then after my third rotation, really, I started to combine the two together. So then with a lot of my patients at my third rotation, I felt like I was way more comfortable with them. I was acting completely myself. So the lines blurred. And then that's when I started realizing, like, okay, some patients I can tell them straight up.
Hmm.
Other patients need more TLC and you know, gentle talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but it took some time. Like, it took me till the end of my PT journey to really combine the two together. So now I can gauge it pretty well. Like, if I talk to a patient, I can tell them, what they need to hear.
Right.
But in the beginning, no way.
Yeah. What was the turning point when you realized that it was just going smoothly for you throughout the rotations?
So, my first rotation, um, my CI was absolutely amazing. She was the one who really pushed my confidence, and she was the one that was, saying, even though you're small, you can do anything you want. She was also smaller stature, but in a sniff where you have to like carry patients basically. She boosted that confidence a lot.
Right.
And then my third rotation, my CI was also pretty amazing. He was the one that was kind of like, just relax, like be yourself. And then everything just started coming together between her and him. Like everything just is, that's how I am now.
Yeah. Like it kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
It gave you the best of both worlds in the sense
Right.
of understanding like the tough love versus
Hmm.
not the tough love,
Right.
in the sense of kind of mixing that together,
Yeah. But
which
it
is
was a
good.
lot of finding confidence in myself and
Mhm.
understanding, like, yeah, you can do this. And then having people push you, like, to believe that that's true. And it
Sure.
wasn't just like, you're lying to me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, of
yeah.
course. Was there a lot of pep talk to yourself during those times?
Absolutely. Even with not just myself, but with my friends as well. Because I think what I struggled with was I just went through so much failure in the past with, you know, how many years it took me to get into PT school and then all the struggles I faced while in PT school. And it took a lot of pep talks to believe like what my friends and family were saying, like you can do this, like your stuff, you went through this program, like you know what you're doing. And I just kept thinking, you don't know, like you're just saying that
Yep.
so I don't cry.
Right.
But yeah, once that clicked and I was like, I actually do know what I'm saying, then yeah.
I think that's the big part of it too, because until you start really seeing the patients, it makes the difference of like, I say that a lot, but textbooks can only teach you so much.
Right.
Humans are complicated,
Yeah.
especially patients who are like, ready to be done with therapy. Like
Yep.
they're even more complicated than what it
Right.
is. So I can only imagine, the situations that you've been in where they're frustrated with how their treatment's going and the progress that they're not getting.
Right. And it's definitely tough, especially being someone that's, 4'11, just barely passing 100 pounds. A lot of my patients obviously tower over me or they're a lot bigger than me. So it is scary. And I understand being in their shoes to be like, have this little girl walk in the room like, hey, I'm Justine, I'm your
Yeah.
physical therapist. Or at the time, like, I'm your student physical therapist, which student physical therapist, that's always going to scare patients because this is some of their worst times. They don't want to work with the student. So, on top of that, with my smaller stature, it's definitely scary. But It definitely helped me that everyone just kept saying, like, "Fake it till you make it."
That's such a big part.
It's such a big part, and then once I started I thought I was just faking it and making it up, but it's like, you do know everything, it's
Right.
in there, it's
Yeah.
just it'll come out and you just it's like, "Wow, did I say that?" Like, I didn't even know that I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's a
It
weird feeling.
it is a weird feeling because at some point, you're right. Like you think you don't know it, but you really do. It's just the confidence that has to build
Right.
up. And yes, sometimes you do have to reassure to the patient that you know what you're doing, and maybe you don't know it at that moment,
Mhm.
but it'll come to you. Like that's kind of what it is. And if it doesn't, well, that's your job to go figure out what went wrong or what
Right.
you can do to improve it.
Mhm.
It's more simple than we make it, but that's really the equation for it. The logistics for that.
Yeah.
But if only people were able to like kind of understand, like what the medical field is, that would be different as well.
Yeah.
Now with billing and all that kind of stuff that you knew, like I like to know about it just because in the America the billing is horrible.
Yeah.
So in the PT situation, how is the billing life? How is the billing world?
I'm still learning it. There are different codes for different things that you do. So TheraAct, TheraX, NeuroGate, it just kind of depends on what you treat. As far as I'm concerned, because they usually have a complete billing department outside of me, but for me, I bill for things that we actually do.
Mhm.
So obviously, you don't want to commit fraud. So that's pretty much as far as I know. I thought I understood insurance working as a front desk coordinator, or alongside the people who did insurance as a
Mhm.
front desk coordinator, but it's really confusing and sometimes it's not fair. And I feel like some patients don't get the care that they deserve because of billing and insurance and things. And I'm not sure what change needs to be made, but I know a lot of PTs now are shifting towards cash pay,
Yep.
so that they can treat patients better without having limitations of insurance. But there it's becoming more popular, but it's not as common around
Yeah,
here
yeah.
yet.
Yet, and I can see how that could change
Mhm.
quickly too. Um, Nobody's getting paid these days. Like
Yeah.
it is a part of like the audience members should know. Like insurance is not getting any better. Every year they make changes to
Mhm.
drastically decline the patient's care. That's
Yeah.
just a fact, no matter what it is, and it's kind of disappointing. I
Yeah.
hate thinking about it, but that's truly like what it is. They were saying with Blue Cross Blue Shields, not the name drop, but it's they were saying that a lot of these patients aren't going to get the same care that they got in 2021 for 2022,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because like theoretically, if they're making more money, they should be able to bring more care. But a lot of these doctors' offices, even in my area, they were saying no, we're not taking Blue Cross Blue Shields anymore. And I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy because they were for however long of many years,
Yeah.
and now they're just like, nope, they're not paying us, so why would we take it?
And I think I heard recently with some parts of PT, they're cutting reimbursements again for certain things. So it just makes it hard because obviously people want to get paid for the work that they do, but
Yeah,
then it just makes it hard and it's like a weird line between like, do I do this and just not get paid, but then you're still a healthcare provider and you're supposed to, patient first mentality. So, I don't know. I want to learn more about it, but the more I learn about insurance, the more I'm like, wow, this is not this is not it.
this is dog crap.
Yeah.
it,
It's
it's
tough.
it's it is tough. How often can you like see your patient just get denied? Like there's only so
Mhm.
much time, so many times that you can see that
Yeah.
and withdraw it. Like it's crazy to see that. We used
It's
to have
very
that.
discouraging when you see a patient post-op and they're only allowed 5 visits
Right.
and you're like, that's not it's not enough.
Yeah. I mean, every treatment's different, but like how on average for all the patients, how long do they stay for treatment usually? And that's a
Um
very tough estimate because
I know it just kind of depends,
right.
but I guess we'll say like 6 to 12
Yeah.
weeks.
Like that's just like a very, very rough estimate, but
Yeah.
that's like what it usually is.
Hmm.
So even like 5 treatments, that's
Yeah.
that's literally below like standard of what you in your opinion would consider, but still
Right.
that's pretty low.
And some patients get seen 2 times a week, especially if they're post-op. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it's really not that
Yeah,
much.
so 3 weeks and they're out pretty
Yeah.
much. Not even
Two
3 weeks,
and a
really.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5. That's a scary way to go.
Yeah.
Healthcare in general is just it's starting to get rough.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about it. So
Yeah.
before we go on a whole rant for it. All right, I got some other questions to end it out.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No.
All right, cool. Would you rather be able to fly or be able to breathe underwater?
I would rather fly
Why?
because I'm scared of the water. Like, have you seen how big the ocean is?
Yes, it is.
I'm scared of that. And, if it's just a pool, that's not really helpful. I could just get up.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's a good point. The flying would be a good idea,
Yeah,
but breathe underwater because we don't know what's underwater.
that's true, but I don't want to know.
Oh, okay, okay. You're
Like,
not.
I don't think there's ever a time where I would need that. I mean, yeah, like, there's never a time that I would need that because I'm scared of water.
Yeah, I can see that too. Okay, fair enough. I'll let that one go by. All right. Would you rather go a year without desserts or have to eat a spoonful of wasabi every single day? That's a tough one.
I would eat a spoonful of wasabi because
Yeah,
the pain will only last like 15 minutes.
I guess it all depends on how much.
A spoonful? I mean, that's still like how big the spoon?
It's got, let's say plastic spoon.
Okay, yeah, like 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Drink some milk. It'll be fine. Clear your sinuses.
You know what's funny is we went to a sushi place and this reminded me of it. If somebody tests her, my wife, she'll do it. Like she gets very
Competitive.
yeah, and she gets like very defensive. She's like, okay, fine, like I'll prove you wrong. There's like 30 people at this table, right? And we're all
Oh,
trying to be like not professional, but like formal. And Savannah's like, if you're here to challenge me, I'll do it. And one of my good friends was like, nah, you won't do it. Because he's like, he was a very showboater guy. He wouldn't touch it. Savannah literally didn't even question it. She didn't say, I'll bet you. She grabbed it and ate it.
oh,
And she just sitting there. And I'm like, this is going to be really bad. And she starts like tearing up,
oh
but she's like
no.
keeping a straight face. She's not like losing this battle. and, and it reminded me of that. And I was like, why'd you do that? She was like, he would challenge me. And I asked her,
That's why I love Savannah.
she's something else, she's unique. And so I asked her, did he challenge you? And she goes, like, not directly, but he was looking in, like he was looking at me. And I was like, no, he wasn't.
It was enough.
It was enough, yeah. But I was like, all right, cool, fair enough. All right, actually, this is the last one, I promise.
Okay.
This is a good one. Would you rather be the smartest or the funniest person in the room?
I would rather be the funniest person in the room.
Agreed.
I feel like you need to know your stuff to be in healthcare, but to really connect with patients or to really like make a difference with the
Hmm.
patient's treatment, you have to connect with them. And I feel like a lot of my patients where I'm their friend and we connect on that level or we build that rapport, their
Right.
treatments just go way better than if I was just spitting out facts to them. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see that. Funny is always more attractive, I think,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion.
Even with just friends,
Yep.
I think being funny is just like a good trait to have.
But what do you have to do when you're smart? Yeah, maybe you'll make more money, but that also depends on how you look at it too. Smart could be meaning like textbook smart,
Yeah.
but if you're not street smart,
But it's like somebody told me this, you can either be smart or you can work hard and you can get the
oh,
same results. So I can be funny and work hard.
that is a good point.
Yeah.
That is a very
Like I don't
touche.
think I'm smart. I think I just work hard.
I, I like I've been now that we're talking about that, I've been thinking about that like a lot lately. I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm like the smart one, but I'll definitely I'm
You
street
work
smart.
hard.
Yeah, like you work hard in the sense of I'd rather put in the work,
Mhm.
and yeah, I might not be the most efficient, but at least it gets done.
Yeah.
one way or another.
Like, I'm so jealous of the people who are just naturally smart, but
Yeah.
I'm not. So I have to work hard.
Yeah,
So yeah, but same results. We all graduated with the DPT.
that's true. Oh,
So
look at that. There was that reminds me, I had this kid in class. We were taking pre-calc in the summer, my freshman year when I came to KSU, and he was a smart kid. Like this kid he's like, I want to be a plastic surgeon, this
Mm.
and that. He had a nice Mustang. This guy had it all, right? And I just that was a quality characteristic that I knew
Yeah.
about him, random, but that's how I associate them with the cars. So he was very privileged, obviously, and so he, even on top of him being smart, he would like just not really show up. It was an 8 a.m. class in the summer,
Mhm.
so he wouldn't really show up. And I was just like struggling with pre-calc on its own. I didn't really do much in high school, anyways, as you know. And during that time, like throughout the semester, I ended up um, not having to take the final exam because I made a high enough grade to
Mhm.
get an A, and then not worry about it. And that kid actually ended up getting a D.
Oh, wow.
And but that I was asking the professor because I really liked him. He goes, "Well, you just showed up to office hours, and it took you a lot longer." Yes, he was like, "Yeah, it definitely took you a lot longer, especially for me to explain." But this kid he never showed up, or and he never like bothered to do any of like the homeworks either. He's like, "That's
Oh.
what brought your grade up, the homeworks." And I was
Wow.
like, "Oh, okay." So that was my first like moment where I realized like, even if you have talent, if you have no work ethics, it goes to waste.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's a good way to go." Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
I
thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward for this for a while, but I was
Yes.
I was figuring out the right time to ask you. Like I was like, all right, let me just ask her after graduation.
Yeah, it's good timing.
Exactly. All right. So we'll put in the link of description of where they can contact you.
Okay.
I'll give them your social security number too.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, you want to
perfect.
that down? Yeah,
That's
go
what I
ahead.
wanted,
All
yeah.
right, cool. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks.